Hey, what's going on, guys? Singh here. I just wanted to talk about a little bit of a different subject again than what I normally do in this game. I wanted to talk about refining, actually. I think this is something that may not be fully understood by a lot of players, and I think this is probably the most important subject, especially because it's so scarce, it's so expensive, and yeah, messing up can pretty much ruin an account if you're not careful. Wasting refines is just, in my mind, just lighting time and money on fire. So I have no issue sharing as much information as possible about refining properly. So I uh, I used to play a game before this that had a similar concept, and I realized very early on that refined stones are something not to be messed with. And I was lucky enough that I met a friend really quickly that told me like, hey, don't use any refines, don't use it on Dragon gear, just save it all for Ari's gear and Ak gear. And I listened to him. I mean, I used a little bit on my Dragon bow and stuff, and then I just saved everything for Ak and Ari's. And of course, I still made a ton of mistakes along the way, but I still understood the basics through my own experience about how to refine properly for the long run, which is the most important thing to understand. So, a lot of folks, what they end up doing is refining to quickly just go ahead and have a refine in a slot, and then they'll lock it, and then they'll refine for the next three slots, and they'll get something that's like 3% under what they want, and they're like, okay, I'll just change it later, and they'll lock that too, and then they're refining for the last two slots, and they're like, oh, I finally got a good one, and then they'll lock that, and then they get, they keep going and going and going, and they're just going crazy for this last one, and they finally get it, and now they have like two janky refines, one good one, and one like mediocre one, and they use all these refines to get to this position, and they're gonna have to go back and redo it again anyway. Um, so I just want to explain the math behind long-term refining. So this is a mail that I sent to my alliance, and I've sent this in the past, and I wanted to just share a little bit about it. So the first thing you want to do when you're setting up your refine plan is to, be realistic with yourself as far as how many refines are you able to bring in, and what you're like via bossing, via coining. Like are you spending a little bit here and there? Are you bossing quite a bit every day? Um, are you getting like 5,000 a week? Are you getting 10,000 a week? Are you coining on the weekends? Are you spending five a day? How many refines do you have? And the next thing is set your minimums. So by minimums, I mean what's the what's the lowest that you're willing to accept for a refine? Are you willing to accept 22% on Ari's gear and that's it? That's my minimum. If I get a 21.9, I'm not accepting it. 22% is what I want and that's it. Or are you okay with 20%? Are you okay with 21%? Just set your minimum. My recommendation for the average player, VIP 16, VIP 15, go for 20%. I think that's fair. Don't go crazy scratching for that 2% more, that 3% more, re refining all over again. The return on investment is not, in my opinion, not worth it. So let's just put this example in an Ari's bow. You have your 20% minimum that you're going for. So you have your 20% minimum and you're like, okay, I'm going to accept 20% range attack. That's my minimum for my slots. Next thing you do, when you're refining a fresh bro, just do not accept anything that is below that minimum. If you want to accept the 19.8, 19.1, it's up to you. I think you could do that, especially if you're getting unlucky. But on the first one, I recommend you don't do it. Um, Roll all four slots until you get something that meets your minimum threshold and stick to that long term plan. If you get unlucky initially, you're like, okay, I got 10,000 refines. I should get pretty lucky. And you blow through all of it and you get like a 17 or something. You're like, maybe I'm just going to keep it. No, stick to your plan. In the long run, you will get it. In the long run of all your gear, it's all going to average out, hopefully. And you're going to get to your end goal of where you want to be at a fair cost without having to go back in time and or back in the future and then re-roll that 17% and waste refines. So let me explain the actual math behind uh, rolls for slots. So when you're refining and you have all four slots open, right? Let me show you. I don't want to buy anything Evony. So when you're refining, I'm not gonna refine anything, but when you're refining and you have all 4 slots open, you're still using 200 refines. And if I lock these 3 slots, I'm still using 200 refines. Except I only have one chance over here at this bottom skill over here. I only get one attempt at getting this slot. If I have all of them open, I'm still using 200 refines and I have 4 chances at getting this slot that I'm going for. This role that I'm going for. Let's just say this 20%, mounted defense or whatever that I may be going for over here. So as you have more slots open, you have a higher probability of landing something that you want, which is one reason you should be more willing to accept, more willing to not lock refines early on and not accept mediocre refines early on. So you start with 4 slots. It costs you 50 refines per roll because you're rolling 4 open slots. If you lock 1 slot, it's going to be on average 66.6 refines per roll. If you lock 2, it's going to be 100 refines per roll. And then on that final dang slot, that's rough for everyone, it's going to be 200 refines per roll. And yeah, so just keep that in mind. The more, try to leave as many slots open as possible as you're rolling, and try to stick to your minimum requirement as you're refining. So yeah, so I go through an example over here of range attack, right? So the chance of getting, I think it's actually 1 out of 15. I keep saying 1 out of 16 here, but the chance of getting range attack it's actually 1 out of 11 to get range attack skill. And then there's flats and percentages. So it becomes 1 out of 15 to get range attack percentage. So this means just like what type of skill did you roll on? So 1 out of 15 to land on range attack percentage. And then it becomes, okay, 1 out of 15 for that. And then it's like 20% chance for you to get above a 20%, like a 1 in 5 chance for you to get above a 20%. Are you following? So imagine it as brackets, right? 1 to 5%, 5 to 10%, 10 to 15%, 15 to 20%, and then 20 to 25%. These are 5 different brackets that your refine could roll in. And you're aiming for that 20 to 25% refine, that 20 to 25% bracket. So it's one, after you hit that range percentage, it's another 20% chance that it's going to land in that percent bracket that you're going for. So it's going to be, I say over here, it's 1 out of 16 times 1 out of 5. I don't know. Let me try to put it to the top of the screen so you can follow. So we're all the way at the top. 1 out of 16 times 1 out of 5. It's actually 1 out of 15 times 1 out of 5. Is going to be the chance of you landing that 20% refine. And let's just say you do this for 4 open slots at a time, right? So you have a 1.25% chance. It's actually higher again because it's 15. You have this 1.25% chance rolling 4 at a time. Every single time you use 200 refines, you have a 5% chance of getting a 20% or higher range attack, right? On average, that's going to cost you 4,000 refine stones to get that first slot. You could get very lucky. You could land 2 at once. It could take you forever. You never know. It could take 10,000. It could take 20,000. I mean, I've gotten unlucky. Everyone's gotten unlucky. It happens. Some people, or sometimes you'll roll and you'll land 2 at once. Sometimes you get it in 3. It does. We all get lucky. We all get unlucky. It happens. But mathematically, this is how it works. So, okay. You use 4,000 refines. You get your 120%. Let's just say. You move on. Now, you lock that. You follow the instructions. And now you have 3 slots. Well, this is glitching. Now you have 3 slots that you have a 1.25% chance of every single time you roll. Each one has a 1.25% chance of getting that 20% range attack or higher every single time you roll. So that'll be 3.75% chance. And on average, that's going to be 27 attempts or 5,300 refines roughly. Again, give or take a couple if you're lucky or not, a couple attempts, maybe a lot of attempts, you never know. The standard deviation could be really high. You could get very lucky or very unlucky. You never know. But on average, it should be about 5,300 refines. And When you get that second 20% or higher range attack, you go ahead and lock that, and then you move on. And this is when it starts getting harder. You have a 1.25% chance times 2 open slots. That's 8,000 refines or 40 attempts on average to go ahead and get that 20% or higher range attack. And then the very last one, this is where people can get stuck for quite a long time if you're unlucky. It takes 80 attempts on average to get that final slot in there, and 16,000 refined stones on average. That's why this specifically, imagine specifically, this is actually the math of why you shouldn't lock more than one, because, or you shouldn't lock early, I should say. Because let's just say you have two that you want to go ahead and change in the future, right? Let's just say let me see if I can find a general, for example, in the general ranking. I'm going to put someone on blast in my server. Hey, what's going on here? Okay. All right. So, Roy, right? Let's just say this range general is being refined, and there's no way he landed a 23.8, a 14, an 18.6, and a 17.8 at the same time. If while this person was refining, he had gotten the 14, locked it, gotten the 18.6, locked it, gotten the 17.8, locked it, and then gotten the 23.8, or whatever sequence this happened in. But every single time he hit above that 14 or whatever the first one came, he had got ahead and locked it because he was satisfied with that minimum. But he's at a point where he's going to have to go back and re-refine this again. And that last range attack, again, depending on what minimum you're willing to accept, can cost like 16,000 refines to get that last slot. And now imagine he's locking one at a time again. Let's just say the 23 he keeps, the 18 he keeps, the 17 he keeps, and he's locking for that last 14 slot. He's like, oh, I want 5% more. Well, if you want to go for 20% or higher, you're going to use 20,000 refines on average to get a 20% or higher, just to increase 5 or 6%. So in the long run, you're going to re-refine your bow again and again until you get it to the right place. And that's just not the way to be. So the right way to do it, is the long run method. Let me see if I can find someone else's general. I think actually Defox Wall General, or Siege General was someone that I was helping him out with. No, his Wall General wasn't a good example. Let me see if I can find his Siege General. It's actually kind of low down the list. No, might not even be on here. Well, if someone is just, if for Roy's general, for example, if he were to have that 20% minimum threshold, the right thing to do is to lock that 23.8 and just take the L on those bottom three refines and just keep refining until he gets to 20% or higher, lock 20% or higher, lock 20% or higher, lock. And it should cost him 5,300 refines, 8,000 refines, 16,000 refines on average to go ahead and fix this bow to get it to the right place. And he's already invested, I don't even know how many refines into this bow in the first place. So these are like this, the small redos that you're going to have to do again and again if you aren't refining your gear properly in the first place or accepting crummy refines. Like, really make sure you do a solid job on your general the first time as you're refining the first time around, or the second time around, I guess, if you're just watching this video and you're fixing your refines and stuff. So yeah, so I hope that helps you out. As far as plant gear, or the civilization gear, I should say, I would say, for me at least, my minimum is like 23 or 23 and a half is roughly like where I'll accept the bottom. I coin, definitely, like I coin a lot, and I've slowed down. I had to accept whatever I could on these pants. I've slowed down a lot, but generally speaking, like 23% is my minimum that I'll accept, and anything higher than that is amazing if I've hit it. And I follow the same method. If it's below my minimum, I try not to accept it, and I lock it in, And I think of the long run, if I have to go a period of time without any refines, I'll take the L for a period of time. And eventually, I know I'll get to a place where I'm happy with my refines. Even if it means for like a month, I have to go with a bow with stone gathering speed for a little bit of time. I know that in the future, I will have that 20% plus bow following the math. And it'll be the most efficient way for me to not have to redo this bow again and again. And it's the most efficient way for me to use my refined stones. So please, guys, don't waste your refines. They're super valuable. They're super precious. I hope this video helped. I rambled so much, man. I got to get more organized when I do this stuff, but hopefully this feels genuine at least. You know, this is just stuff coming off the top of my head. And hopefully you're able to keep up with the way I'm explaining things. And if you have any questions, just comment below, like and sub, and I'll see you in the future. Bye.